For those who do not know, I am an engineering student, and that means I'm a big fucking nerd.
All right. What a fucking start, nerd.
But it's less about it's like, oh yeah, games are cool. It's like, wow, this piece of paper has more lines than normal on it. I'll admit, I don't really know how to pick topics very well. But at the time, I was reading about like just weird things that happened in the Cold War, and planes came to mind because
the two wings at the front. They really feel like they're doing something.
It looks like the clown car of planes.
If that plane were a person, it looks like it would have buck teeth.
Aww. That's kind of cute.
So things like this happen when you can combine massive tensions, the ability for engineers and designers to have access to computing power and research, like, here's how we make this work instead of just crash, and a colossal cocaine addiction. So you can do these things, step back and say, yes, that looks normal. And our first example is something called the Thunderscreech. So this actually came from an original plane that did make it to production, the one you see here. It's basic, it's boring, it's normal, nothing special really about it. And, you know, here's how to spice it up. Step one, take your $7.7 million plane, remove its engine. Step two,
perfect.
All right,
in its place, put in a 6,000 horsepower turboprop engine.
That's a lot.
Next, add an afterburner, which gives you another 1,000 horsepower. Next, add a massive propeller to the front, one of the biggest ever fitted to any airplane. Step 5, I don't know, do another line.
Second. If you have a big propeller on the front, aren't you adding more like surface or like wind force or air tension, whatever that word is?
Air tension.
Air
resistance. Yeah. That's the one. Aren't you just adding more air resistance to the front of your plane?
When you've done enough cocaine, things like friction become negligible.
Okay.
And after that, after you've done all these things and realize this is still an acceptable aircraft, you profit off it, ideally. But here's what it looked like after it was finished. If you notice, this picture is black and white, and the other one was color. That should say something.
I'm guessing it didn't make it.
No.
My son, my child. Look at him. He's so young and innocent before the accident.
The first problem we found out was the engine had so much power, if you tried to go to full power, it would flip the aircraft over.
That'll do it.
That seems safe.
And it was so bad to use. The test pilot that they flew with it literally threatened to beat up the engineers that designed it. Threats of actual violence were expressed over this aircraft.
You tried to kill me, you son of a bitch.
Pretty much, yes. That's almost exactly what he said. So, why was this plane so terrible? Well, first off, it was loud as fuck. This one was so loud, even if you had earplugs, you could hear from 25 miles away. The propeller itself spun so fast, the entire end of it was supersonic. But that meant that it was also continuously making a sonic boom. And the sonic boom itself was so powerful, there was a technician fueling it. He got knocked over and blown 5 feet from where he was standing.
No!
Did his ear cavities, explode?
They must have.
Yeah, because it just kept going. It literally just didn't stop.
Well, usually when I think of a sonic boom, I think of that, Django Fett's, one thing where he sets off the depth drive and goes, BOW! And I'm like, it's like a big burst. But then if that's just perpetual big burst, that seems awful on so many levels.
Yeah.
It's worse. So the front propeller on the plane spun faster than the speed of sound.
Yes, this innocent-looking triangle actually caused untold havoc and destruction, and that's why it has the X for experimental.
I see why it was called the Thunderscreech, though.
Yeah, moving on from this one, we'll come to our second example.
Long and short, boys.
Hey,
exactly. This first plane was, admittedly, it was thought of during World War II. The big boy seat down at the bottom. The thought was if the United Kingdom fell during World War II, the U.S. would have to bomb Europe from the U.S. But nobody had enough. They didn't have enough range to do that.
So wait. So it's literally a Kerbal Space Program plane. That's all.
No, it is. It actually is. Yeah.
Yes,
it's amazing.
So just a sense of the scale, the propellers on that are 19 feet in diameter.
Holy shit!
Each one of them is 19 feet.
Oh my god!
The wing where the wing connects to the big long fuel tube is 7 feet thick, so you can actually walk inside the wing.
Damn.
If you're a crew member, because it's designed to bomb Europe and return to the U.S. without landing. It has enough fuel to stay in the air for 40 hours continuously.
At what speed?
That's pretty impressive.
Jesus!
At 300 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour.
Jesus!
So it can fly to Europe, bomb Berlin for 5 minutes, and then spend 30 hours flying back.
I'm reminded of Vernier's, like, we drove 72 hours to eat at Taco Bell.
Yeah, yeah. We flew all the way to Australia to eat kangaroo meat. You won't believe what happens 8 minutes into the video.
That does sound like a Mr. Beast video.
It actually does.
We're looking at Big Boy here first. As you might imagine, big plane means big heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And to make big heavy go sky and not fall, you need 10
up.
engines.
I don't know if I can keep up with this engineering lingo you're using.
They had 4 jet engines and 6 propellers.
Really? Hey, yo.
And then for the jets, they were pretty basic. So they only had 5,000 pounds of thrust each. But the real star was the propellers with those huge propeller blades on the end of them. So each of those had one engine, which was 28 cylinders, and it displaced 71.5 liters. And now to put it in perspective, most people's cars would probably be around 2 or 3.
How much would it take to send this thing to Europe?
Yeah, how much fuel did this thing consume on a round trip?
I'm sure it was a lot.
I am also sure it's a lot.
How many Iraq invasions is that?
As it would turn out, having this many engines was a good thing. Because, as you can see, the official slogan was 6 turning, 4 burning. However, the engines tended to fail regularly. So the generally accepted slogan among like the aircrew that flew it was 2 turning, 2 burning, 2 smoking, 2 choking, and 2 missing. I'm sure you can imagine nuclear weapons combined with a gigantic plane that's not very reliable always ends well, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It sure does.
And sure enough, within 2 years of this plane existing and flying...
Wait! Is this the plane that lost a nuke on the eastern coast of the United States?
Did it multiple times.
Multiple times!
Why, multiple times? Wait!
Oh yeah, the United States has lost like a bunch of nukes.
But even that's only the jet engines that cause those problems. Time to talk about the other engines on it, the big propellers. So because they're at the back of the wing instead of the front, the engines had a tendency to freeze because the air inlet was in the front instead of the back like normal. It meant that they would ice up and the engine would choke out and die.
Why did they do that?
You know, I don't know, actually. It's not a very good idea, is it?
Cool, all right? It looked cool, man. Leave it alone, man.
That's actually a really
They
good
were like,
question.
Jerry was like, hey, should we re-put these in the front? And someone else was like, yo, but have you thought about how, like, sick the aesthetic of this
Yeah,
plane
I mean, dude,
actually
look at
looks,
it.
though?
You know?
But it
Actually,
looks cool.
Let's put a racing
It's gonna
stripe on the
get
side of
so
it.
many
Actually, give me
bitches.
one
Like,
second.
They just snort cocaine off their
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, so
It's
that little bit there was the intake to every engine, and every time they would come out with at least 2 of them frozen shut.
I want to know about the small plane though, because I think the small boy.
The small boy seems like my perfect.
Yeah.
My perfect
So the small
child.
plane is interesting in its own right because it was so big. It could not well defend itself because it's such a easy target, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
So they thought we need fighters to stay with it to protect it, right? But none of them can fly anywhere near far enough. So what if we put
And
fighters
that's where the little
inside the
guy
plane?
Oh my
Bro,
God.
that's fucking Star Wars. Oh my God, that's literally Star
Yeah, then
Wars.
if you zoom in on the picture of the plane, you can see a guy sitting in the cockpit as well. So you can know just how small it is.
What if it's me looking down on me? The world above must also be. This could go on for infinity.